David Baker, Mark Gregorich join us in studio. The entry, otherwise known as ODBMG, took down the Circa Super Contest at Westgate over the weekend, finishing a tie for second at Circa Million here at Circa Resort and Casino in the Circa Sportsbook. Fellas, congratulations. Thanks so much for coming in today. How are you?
We're wonderful. Thank you for having us. And it's been kind of a whirlwind weekend, whirlwind season, and just kind of excited that it's over, honestly. It's been a very stressful ride for the last 6-8 weeks. As you can tell, my voice a little...
Enough voice for another week of this.
Yeah, my voice a little sour, screaming at Seattle and San Francisco down the stretch for 3 hours on Sunday.
Well, we'll obviously get into that coming up in a second. You two, I mean, for almost pulling off what you did, you understand, I mean, have you been able to actually comprehend throughout the entire time of this run how impressive it was? I mean, sports betting Hall of Fame, go right into it. To almost take down both contests in the same year, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, thanks. I actually heard you guys last week mention that win both and instant induction in the Hall of Fame. I was like, yes, let's go, let's take it down. Thought that was very nice of you guys, and we tried to pull it off. We almost had it, but
Mark, how about the start? You start 18-2, and then I think it was 17-3. What was the strategy? What were you guys doing that worked so well out of the gates?
I mean, David and I saw things pretty similarly, I think, and we latched on to a few. One of the things we did before the season started is we talked about how 2020 was going to really affect football, and some things that perhaps were true in the past that may not be true this season. So we found a few things and kind of went with those angles, and we were sort of surprised at. We saw a lot of line value in places that we didn't think we should, such as home field advantage, the fact that good quarterbacks could kind of audible on the road unhindered by crowd noise, things like that. So felt like there was a few really big edges that weren't necessarily reflected in the lines. And probably part of why we didn't stay 18-2 all the way was I think the lines wisened up pretty quickly.
Okay. Explain the emotions with the Seattle game. This is you're laying 6 in the contest. They're down 10 in the fourth quarter. You write it off, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose. They get and it's, oh my God, we can cover here, and then who knows what can happen.
Yeah, for those that don't know, we had by the time the Seattle game got to the last couple minutes, we had already won Westgate, and the only thing left in contention was the Circa Millions, which that was the granddaddy. I mean, $1 million for first and $300 for second. So obviously, that's an awful lot of money. So all we needed to have happen was Seattle needed to cover, and then we had Washington in the night game. But the Washington game, we had an amazing line. It was a 2-point line in the contest. There was a 6.5-point line in real life. We had kind of had some hedging spots already set up, so we were guaranteed to win multiple hundreds of thousands more. Also multiple hundreds of thousands more if it landed in the middle, 2-7, which it actually did. So it ended up costing us a little bit more than it actually even looks like in the contest. But so all we needed was Seattle by 6, and the whole game they're kind of down. They're struggling. The offense isn't working, and then before we know it, they score to go up. We look at the time. If we can stop San Francisco one time, we're getting the ball back, and they're going to have to score. Sure enough, we get a strip sack. Seattle goes in for the cover. We go absolutely crazy at the sports book. And then San Francisco just walks down the field. And Seattle just stopped playing defense, and it was kind of crazy. And then the pure elation and just the air just completely went out of us. But it was still an amazing day.
I didn't mean to chuckle at first. I did it because he put on his Seahawks mask. And I'm like, is that like a gag order? You don't talk about the Seahawks?
No, that's where I'm from, and I love the Seahawks. At least I did until a few days ago.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, this is painful. I'm going to get rid of this.
That's good.
I mean, just the way it broke, though, is Shanahan going to kick the field goal,
that was
then
in
go
play,
onside, down by 10, the thought process like that. Just the egg. And for what you guys mentioned off the air, by the way, if that fumble doesn't happen, right, the Seahawks, they didn't show up with their A game that day, and somehow they looked like they were...
We had no expectations. We just figured, okay, we won the Super Contest. That's great. We're going to get a nice score in Circa. That's great. And then they do this to just tease us. I mean, that's just not right.
No. And then, like you said, David, the way you were set up, because to cap it off here at Circa Million, you would have been a half a point back going into the Sunday night game with the football team laying 2 points. And then not only would you have won the contest, but hedging on the other side, taking in the Eagles plus 6.5, you win everything at that point.
That play actually cost us more than first place in Circa.
Yeah, because I mean, we had already had some hedge situations set up, and we were all ready to fire. We actually needed either Seattle or Carolina, but Carolina didn't put up much of a fight. So that game was dead. But we needed Seattle, and then it was all set up for us. But it's hard to be upset when you win a championship in anything.
Sure.
And we won an awful lot of money, obviously, and we're just a couple of guys that absolutely love sports and love sports gambling, and we're not sharps by any means. We're not moving markets or making major plays, or we didn't have any great data sheets or any picks. This was just two guys who love sports, love talking about it, and every Friday we get on the phone for an hour or two, and we would dissect each game and go through them. And the games that we loved, we would put on both cards. And I think I haven't really done the data, but I would guess we went over 80% on the games that we put on both cards.
We did.
Wow.
That's how we got so good in both cards, because we would usually use 3 games the same, and then the other 2 games we would kind of fluctuate. So to run almost a 70% across the board on both contests, we really had to nail our plays that we were double dipping.
We'd have to look, but I feel like we went to like week 10 or 11 without going 1 and 2 on their 3 consensus plays.
Wow.
I feel like we were 3-0 or 2-1 every week.
That's incredible.
Wow.
Okay, so it's Follow the Money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. David Baker, Mark Gregorich in studio here. They won the Super Contest at Westgate. They finished in a tie for second at Circa Million. We'll come back with them. I want to find out, David, you have 2 bracelets World Series of Poker, correct?
Yes.
I want to find out where that ranks now compared to what you guys did this year. And also just the highs and the lows, like you discussed, winning multiple quarterlies. Almost winning both of these. But compare that to the lows of like just agonizing over what picks you were going to make once you were actually in the running and this thing could actually take place. We'll do that all coming up next year and Follow the Money. David Baker, Mark Gregorich in studio. So this past weekend, week 17, they won the Super Contest at the Westgate, and they finished in a tie for second here at Circa in the Circa Million. Almost won it, and they were the leaders going into week 17. So you mentioned kind of like the highs and the lows a little bit. What was the difference between the two of, the thrill of starting off 18-2, and I think what you said 17-3 in the other one, being in the lead for so much of the season, winning quarterlies, having a chance to pull this thing off, compared to losing sleep probably since like Thanksgiving. I can't imagine how grueling this was. Ulcers, who knows what it could have been, right? Overthinking games that you want to bet, right? Like the highs and lows down the stretch, what they were like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know really. I'll let Mark describe his the way he thought about it, but pretty much for me, for the last 3, 4, 5 weeks, every night I would lay in bed and I would just run like the Sims in my head of these games, and I would just think okay, today I'm going to think about Baltimore Cleveland, and I would just lay in bed and I would just picture like the game going on, and like I did that every single day, every single night, just laying there and just sitting there like running through the game scenarios. And I don't know how a lot of your viewers or you, Mike, approach gambling, but a lot of the times when you have a lead in something, it's not so much the trying to win, it's trying not to screw it up. And, it's different if you're in third or fourth and you're trying to win. It's people don't expect you to win. And so, your friends aren't calling you and talking to you. You're not getting interviews. You're not doing all these things. When you're in first, and in Westgate, we were in first from week 3 to week 17. Not 1 week did we fall out of first place.
Oh my God.
And we were, between 2 and 4 games up every single week. So, at this point, as the weeks went on, it just kind of became expected that we were going to win. And so it's like, how do we not screw this up? Because, as good as we did to start, at the end of the day, you're still basically taking 55, 45% chances with a little bit of line movement and stuff. And so, there's really not that much you can do other than, you pick and then you sit back for 10 hours on Sunday and, hope that the guys do what you think that they're going to do.
Yeah.
How
about you, Mark?
I mean, so like when you go into this kind of contest, I mean, you have your hopes and everything, but it's not really that realistic. I mean, that's why they have the quarterly prizes. So you get like a rebirth every 4 weeks because for most of the people in the contest, you're just out of it. And we did this last year for the first time, and we were in that category. By November, it's like, should I even put the picks in? But yeah, this year, like the start we had, I mean, it made it impossible not to take it seriously out of the gate. And we put a lot of time and effort into it, a little more progressively as things got deeper because we were looking at some different angles as far as leverage on the field and, when we would take a good line or when we would take a bad line, those kind of things. So there were some additional things to discuss in addition to just the games themselves.
You're both smart guys. Did the poker background help in any way?
Oh, 100%. Just the whole process of how to think about a game and how to think about, basically this contest is a game. So how to analyze certain things. I mean, one thing in particular that we did, like the one instance I think that probably stood out that really got us into contention in the Circa contest was probably we were 4 or 5 games back like a month ago. And, basically, which is might as well be out of it at that point because you have to pass so many teams. And we kind of saw a few games on the schedule where we liked the side, but we were getting way the worst of the line. And we figured those were going to be consensus picks the other way. So we decided to just deliberately take the worst line for the leverage. We would never play that game in Westgate because we were in first place. We want to have as much overlap as possible at that point to make it tougher for people to, cut into our lead. But in the Circa contest, to get back into it, we had to do some of those things. And that worked out well for us.
Awesome.
Pretty much every time we did it.
Wow.
And that got us, up near the top of the leaderboard. I think we were only in first place after week 16. So we had, an additional tease there in addition to my boys from Seattle.
Yeah, right.
That's a great move.
Yeah. Do you remember lucky wins? Do you remember bad beats?
Well,
Can you tell me your bad beats?
The obvious lucky win was the Hail Mary to Hopkins.
Okay.
That swung it for us, which at the time was kind of a mixed emotion because David and me and a bunch of friends, we do like this weekly DraftKings fantasy thing on Sundays for probably more money than we should be playing for. And so like we were at a point in the schedule there where I was in first place for the day, but the whole field seemed to have Hopkins. So that would, launched me into like from first to eighth. And at the time, like I was celebrating because we're not allowed to root for our DraftKings things when it affects the game we picked because that's just not cool.
Yeah, right.
So,
yeah.
But so at the time, I was like, yeah, but I was a little bit mixed about it because it,
Right. You have numerous top tens. You have 2 bracelets. You also won a tournament 2 years ago for $1 million. What's a bigger achievement? What are you most proud of? How do you compare the two?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm more proud of the poker because that's my passion in my life and what I've put the most time into. So to me, the poker is basically a reward. Like the achievements that I've had in poker is a reward for all the work that I've put in. And when I'm at the table, I have fun at the table and I'm a jokester and whatever when we're playing. But when we get to the serious part of the tournament, I'm extremely focused and my life work is and this is how I feed my family. I mean, I fed my family for 20 years and all at the poker table basically. And so that's my crowning achievement and that's what I'm going to, but as a fan, I love sports. And, anybody who follows me at Twitter knows that I have very strong opinions on football and football players. And, I love sports. I've loved this contest, even though this is only my second year doing it. I used to listen to Bill Simmons. I mean, I still do. I'm sure Bill Simmons is a pretty big influence on a lot of people in the sports world of my generation. We grew up listening to him. And he used to talk about the Super Contest. And when I was growing up, listening to him and listening to him talk about that Super Contest, to me, it was always like the World Series of sports handicapping. And so, like a lot of people in poker, they're in their living room and they're playing against their friends, dreaming about being at the World Series. I'm sitting there at the poker table dreaming about being in the World Series of handicapping. So to me, this is just kind of like that cool, amazing experience that, you know, I've always dreamed about, and you know, may launch other opportunities and things in the sports world, which, you know, I've always dreamed about doing. So to me, they're very different, but they're both very, very special.
Yeah. How about you, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, this has been a lot of fun, but I mean, I'm not going to kid myself that I'm a sports betting guru or anything like that.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw some things and capitalized on them, and we kind of agreed on most of our philosophy and analysis. So, you know, we were able to parlay that, and with a lot of luck, to winning the contest and almost sweeping. But I mean, for me, yeah, I mean, I've invested a massive amount of my life into poker, so you know, I mean, that's where I've kind of made my bed. I mean, I've supported myself and family for 20-25 years with poker too.
Well,
Okay.
How about this though? So you guys have done very well playing cards, obviously, but now you get to the apex of this, and you win one, you finish tied for second in the other. You win a lot of money, right, doing this, and now like it's like a breath of fresh air. Finally, you can exhale a little bit here after all this for 17 weeks. You could probably do whatever you want now with the money. Go somewhere for like 10 days, 2 weeks, whatever. Take your family. But we're in the middle of a pandemic still. Can't really go anywhere. How do you celebrate?
Well, I mean, we've had a couple of really nice meals here in, here in Vegas the last 2 days, and you know, we went and played golf yesterday, and right now we're just kind of hanging out. This is actually our celebration. I mean, getting to, you know, we thank you for the honor of being on your show, and you know, as sports fans and you know, lifers who have, you know, I spend my days listening to sports radio, and you know, everywhere I go, you know, I don't even flip on the FM dials. It's all, you know, my life has been, you know, sports podcasts and radio shows and things like that, and just getting the opportunity to talk to, you know, people like yourself and a lot of the people who have reached out to us. To me, that's my celebration. Like, I thoroughly enjoy this stuff. The reason why Mark and I decided to partner to this is because we both love football and we love talking about it. I mean, there's a lot of people who do it themselves and they pick and they put it in, and that's fine. But like 90% of the fun for me was having, you know, one of my best friends to discuss football every day for the last, you know, 4 months and be able to sweat. And even though, you know, I live in Arizona now and he lives here, you know, I flew up here, I think, six different weekends. We watched football together here.
Oh, great.
And just, you know, we made the rounds and we watched a couple weeks here at Circa, a couple weeks at Westgate, you know, a couple other places, and just, you know, try to find the lucky spots, you know.
1 minute left. So no proxy. Mark put the picks in. How long did you ever walk past the money at the Westgate? And also, do you like anything this weekend?
I always put them in on the app, so I actually didn't have to come down.
Okay.
Do we like anything this weekend?
Yeah.
I mean, I looked at the board, and it's literally the first week all year I liked all the dogs. Seems like it. Although I'm sure I'll talk myself out of them.
I like the Bills. I mean, I think even though we rode Indy very early in the contest and we were very sharp on Indy for a while. I even heard you talk in a segment earlier. It's not the same Indy team. Yeah. This defense is not the same, and Buffalo's not the same either. I think lay the wood with Buffalo.
Fellas, can't thank you enough. Any common plays, by the way, like 80% in the playoffs for this week?
What's that?
Agree on the same game?
We actually haven't talked. We've been so busy with this, we haven't even analyzed them.
I wasn't even sure who was playing and when until this morning when I looked at the board.
Sports Betting Hall of Fame, fellas. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate you.